Folks, that is it. I mean, that's the real deal. If you want to make a great artichoke and spinach dip, follow this recipe, put your own little spin to it. I think that's absolutely a beautiful, simple way. A $1 loaf of bread, carve it out, and there it is. And you can enjoy this through the holiday season or any time of the year when friends and family come over. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and saute my spinach and kind of get it out of the way here. Put a little bit of oil in there. My pan's already hot. I'm going to throw this spinach in there. Remember, a bag of spinach like this really is not going to produce much. It's really going to cook down. You may want to use 2 bags depending on your recipe, but we're going to use that one pretty large bag. We'll just keep this stirred until it cooks down. Then we're going to put it over here and let it drain and get as much of the moisture off of it as possible. And this doesn't take but a second. Be sure you have enough oil in there though, so your spinach doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. Again, I like using frozen spinach, just didn't have any today. And when you use frozen spinach, set it out the night before, put it in a colander and let it drain thoroughly. Squeeze it and squeeze it and squeeze it. You might even want to wrap a kitchen towel around it and squeeze it to get as much of that moisture out as possible. I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and turn that heat off. Get it over here and let it drain. Letting my spinach drain, we just cooked it, and now we're going to make our roux. The roux is a thickening agent, and we're going to do that with butter. Don't get your pan too high because you can burn your butter. Just get it high enough to melt the butter. We're going to melt that. Then we're going to take our flour. And do not use bread flour or wheat flour to do this. Just use an all-purpose or self-rising flour. And don't use olive oil, use butter to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and add my flour. And just remember, we want a blonde roux. We don't want to overcook this. We don't want it brown. Watch our heat. We don't want to get that butter burned. We're going to just keep that stirred real good. Tell you what, I may add a little bit more flour to this. I'm going to add about another tablespoon or so of flour to that. Make this roux a little thicker. And when you're making a roux, it has to have your undivided attention. Do not get sidetracked. I'm going to go ahead and throw my onions in here. Don't want to burn our garlic, so we'll add it last. So we're going to add a little bit of cooking wine to that. Cooked sherry. Give that a little extra flavor. Oh, I love that smell. It's really good. And over here I have 2 cups of milk. Slowly pour that in and work it in. I'm going to get a whisk out in just a minute so I can blend all this in really well. I'm going to let that dissolve a little bit. Pour in a little more. Again, that was 2 cups of milk. We'll turn my heat up a little bit. Then we're going to add a cup of heavy cream. So that's 3 cups of liquid. And we're going to let that cook and thicken up a bit. It's up to a simmer. Let it cook a little bit there. And then I'm going to add about a cup of sour cream to this. And over here I have a secret ingredient. This is Duke's mayonnaise. Duke's mayonnaise is good in everything. Probably about 1/4 cup in there. You see this has a lot of fat in it, and then we're going to address that issue in just a second. You know how salt and sugar contrast, and sugar will cut salt, and salt will cut sugar. Well, acid will cut fat. So if you're cooking something that's fatty and you don't want that feel in your taste, mouth, that fatty feel, take you a little bit of lemon juice, about a tablespoon or so, and pour in there. Squeeze a lemon in there, and that'll help cut that fat a little bit. That's just a little secret. Now I've got over here some chicken broth, and it's probably about 1/2 cup, and I'm going to just use it to thin this down a little bit. A lot of times people will cut up their artichoke hearts into small pieces, in fact almost puree them. I don't prefer to do that. I like sticking them in there and letting them just cook and then fall apart as they cook. You can break them up with your hand as you put them in there. I just think this gives it a much better texture, kind of a more authentic feel for me anyway. I'll just break that up with my hands. Mash that down with our whisk. We're going to cook it, stir it. Whatever cheese you want to use. I've got a little bit of Parmesan over here, grated Parmesan. I have some cheddar cheese, and then I think there was even a little bit of Monterey Jack cheese I found in the cooler. Artichoke and spinach dip, that's one of those things, there's so many varieties of ways you can serve this. You can serve it cold, you can serve it hot. We can make this, put it in the oven, top it with cheese and bake it till it's golden brown. Some people like to get a big loaf of bread, round loaf of bread, cut it out, put it in there. There's just so many ways you can do it. Probably gonna need a little bit of salt. And I've got a little bit of white pepper over here I'm gonna put in it. You can put black pepper in. I just like the feel and taste of white pepper. I'm gonna put a little bit of that in there. Stir it up. Put a little bit of salt in there. If you put salt in something and you're going to taste it, let it cook, because that salt needs to dissolve into the food. And once it dissolves, it's going to be a lot saltier than when you just put it in there. It's amazing, if you've never done this before, how the lemon will cut that fat, so you don't have that feel in your mouth. It feels like your tongue's coated. That lemon cuts right through it. I'm going to have just a little more lemon, not much. You don't want to overdo it. You can overdo a good thing. Right now I'm going to go ahead and add my spinach in. It's drained off pretty good over here. Get a little more water out of it. We'll go ahead and add the spinach in. Now we're getting somewhere. Stir all that in, then we're going to add the cheese. I'm going to add the cheese a little at a time. And this is something we can adjust. We can add more or less, whatever. I like my artichoke dip to be thick. I like it to have some body. So it's going to take a little cheese here. And of course, the longer you cook it, it'll thicken up some and build some flavor. A little Tabasco sauce or your favorite sauce. Be real careful here. I don't want to make it too much in there. That's about 1/4 of a tablespoon. I think that's just right. It's going to give it a little darker color, not much, but it's going to give you that little extra zing that you want. And remember, when this cools down, it's going to get much thicker. You may have to reheat it. You can serve it just like it is, and or you can chill it down and eat it cold. It doesn't matter. And I've got a great chicken recipe we're going to do one day using this artichoke and spinach dip. You're really going to like that. We made this beautiful spinach dip, and I could not resist. We're just going to have to come over here. I have this bread. I'm going to come in here at an angle and cut toward the center of it with a serrated knife all the way around it. See how I've angled the knife in? I'm cutting toward the center, the blade's facing that way. So we're going to just take the top out of this bread. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways we can present this. This is just one of them. You can use any kind of bread. And let's come over here and just go ahead and brush it down with some butter. Now we're going to take our dip, put it right down in the middle of that bread. This looks so good. I wish I had some Fritos right now to dip into this. And it's ready to eat just like it is there. So we're going to take some cheese, some grated Parmesan cheese or whatever you have handy. And we're going to sprinkle it right on top of it there. I'm going to stick that in the oven just to get that golden brown. And we're going to come back and enjoy this baby. That's so gorgeous. I'll be right back. There you have it. Just pulled it out of the oven. The greatest artichoke and spinach dip you'll ever cook in your life. If you've learned something on this video today, and I'm sure you have, be sure to like it, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this with your family and friends. And remember, above everything, love to cook, but cook to love. And I'll see you next week on All Things Food with John Woods.